Okay, we're going to start with a few problems now. And the first one is, what amount of money will be obtained at the end of 2 years if 10,000 rupees is invested at 4% per annum, compounded yearly? So this is the most basic type of compound interest question. So pause the video for a few minutes and try to work this out on a paper. And then when you're done, or you can't figure out what you're supposed to do, come back and press play. Okay, so hopefully you've worked it out by now. If not, then don't worry, I'll explain it right here. So the first step to solving any word problem successfully is to first figure out what values you've been given. So P, my principal, that's rupees 10,000. It's pretty clearly mentioned over there. So rupees 10,000. My rate is 4%, and my time is, okay, so 4% was the rate, and my time is 2 years, so 2. Okay, so this is pretty direct. The amount is going to be P1 plus R by 100 raised to T, so amount is going to be equal to 10,000. 1 plus R by 100 is 4 by 100 raised to the 2. Okay, always remember to make sure that you're writing whichever formula you're going to use for the question, and in most cases it's just going to be this. So always remember to write whichever formula it is. Okay, so just continuing, 10,000. 1 plus 4 by 100 is 104 by 100, so 4 by 100 squared. So now divide by 2, I get 50, divide by 2, I get 52, sorry. Divide by 2, 25, divide by 2, 26. Okay, so I'm going to write that again so it's clear. I have 10,000 times 26 by 25 squared. So 10,000 times 676 divided by 625. So continuing with the math, 625 divided by 5 is 125. 10,000 divided by 5 is 2,000. 125 divided by 5 is 25. 2,000 divided by 5 is 400. 25 by 5 is 5. 400 by 5 is 80. 5, 1, 16. So, just on the next page, I'll write that again. Equal to 16 times 676. So this calls for a little rough work. Just gonna do that on the side. 676 times 16. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 7 is 42 plus 3 is 45. 6 times 6, 36 plus 4 is 40. So 4056, and then I can just copy the rest. 0, 6, 7, 6. So my final answer is 6. 5 plus 6, 11. 1 plus 7, 8. 4 plus 6, 10. 10,816. So I can say with absolute pride that the answer is rupees 10,816. Okay, so Now let's go a little bit back to the original question. And let's say now, instead of saying what instead of saying that it's compounded yearly, say instead it's compounded half yearly. So again, I encourage you to pause the video and take a piece of paper and try to figure out what difference this little change makes. And when you're ready, press play and we'll do it together. Okay, so hopefully you figured it out. If not, doesn't matter, we will figure it out here. So the major change that making it half yearly does is that firstly, this 4, you should remember this becomes 2, and then this 2, which is time, this becomes 4. That's it. That's the key difference that happens. So now, again, all we have to do is substitute. Again, just do the math. So amount is equal to P1 plus R by 100. Remember never to forget to write the formula, the whole formula. So A is equal to P, we know it's 10,000. 1 plus R, remember now is 2 by 100 raised to 4. So now I'm just going to go and check that I copied everything right. And yes, P is 10,000, R is 2, and T is 4. Okay, so I did do all that right. And let's continue. A is equal to 10,000 times 102 by 100 raised to the power of 4. A is equal to 10,000 times 51 by 50 raised to the power of 4. All I did was I divided both of these numbers by 2. Both 102 by 2, this gave me 51, and the 100 by 2 gave me 50. Okay, so now we have some math to do, and I recommend that you do this for yourself because you're going to need to have practice with solving these kind of questions quickly so that you're able to solve them fast in the exam. But anyway, the answer is 10,000 times. Okay, so how I would do it is I would write down 51 times 51 times 51. Times 50. Okay, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so this one is going to be hard and long, and so you're going to have to hope that you don't get this kind of question in your exam, but all the same, you should be able to solve these. So, do the math. 51 raised to the power 4 is 6, 7, 6, 5, 2, 0, 1. Divided by 20, I'm sorry, 525, 125, 625. And this, after a lot of hard work, would give you 10,824.32 rupees. Yeah, they're like 2 more decimal places, but in the exam, if you give 2, you're pretty safe. You don't first, if the question even asks, if the question doesn't ask for a decimal, I think you're allowed to give it in fractions, but if they say that they want a decimal, then you can actually just give 2 decimal places and you should be fine. Okay, so let's do one last variation of the first problem. So we did yearly, we did half yearly. Now, what happens if they ask instead of amount, what amount of money? What happens if they ask what interest? What interest will be obtained? So I'm gonna stick to the compounded half-yearly problem. Although for both cases you just have to subtract the principal from the amount. So over here you just do, this is the yearly question, remember this is yearly. But so here all you'd have to do is 10,816 minus 10,000, which gives rupees 816. So this is the interest. This is the interest when interest is compounded yearly. And for our half-yearly question, I'm going to go to the next page. 10,824.32, right? Yeah. Minus 10,000 is equal to rupees 824.32. So this is the interest when it's compounded half-yearly. Half-yearly. Okay. So hopefully this is clear by now. If not, and you still can't figure out how to find out the amount or the interest, rewind and watch this video again. If you are ready to move on the other hand, then we're gonna go try a few different types of questions. So here we go. Okay. What rate of interest gives rupees 8820 when rupees 8,000 is invested for 2 years compounded yearly? Alright, again, take a minute, pause the video, try to work out this question on a piece of paper. Alright, hopefully you should have worked it out. If not, we're going to explain it right here. So let's take a look at what we know. We know that the amount is rupees 8820. We know that the principal is rupees 8,000. We know that the time is 2 years. So the only question is, what is the rate? Right? Yep, it's compounded yearly. Okay. So again, this is basically an application of this formula. 1 plus r by 100 raised to the power of t. Okay? So let's go to the next page. Let's work it out here. Sorry, we know that the amount is 8820. We know that the principal is 8,000. What we don't know is the rate. So 1 plus r by 100. And we know the time is 2. Yep, okay. So the first step is to bring 8,000 to the other side. So we'll divide both sides by 8,000. 8820 divided by 8,000 is equal to 1 plus r by 100 squared. So this cuts, divided both sides by 10. Now I'll divide both by 2. So 4, 4, 1, 400. So now I know that this is 21 square and this is 20 square. So be really careful here, because this is actually how you have to write it on the exam. So be really careful and make sure that you write it this way. Okay, so we know that, actually, let me just fix something. So this is the same thing as this whole thing squared. Okay, so you actually have to be really careful and make sure you show this step in the exam. And now what you have to do is you have to cancel this and this. And then you can say 21 divided by 20 is equal to 1 plus r divided by 100. Okay, next step is to cross multiply. This is a simple linear equation. You should be able to solve this. So again, take a break, pause it. At least, even if you weren't able to solve the entire question, you should be able to solve it from here. Okay, so I'm going to finish it now. I'm first going to cross multiply, and I'll multiply both sides by 100. So 21 into 100 divided by 20 is equal to 1 times 100 is just 100, and plus r by 100 times 100 is just r. The hundreds cancel out. So let's finish this off. 5. 21 times 5 is 105. So, now it's pretty clear. R is obviously 5%. Okay, so there we go. That's another question. Now, we're going to move on to one last type of question. And this one is actually pretty painful in my opinion, because due to the nature of the question, there's always a very long and fairly difficult calculation to do. But anyway, you should know how to solve this, and you should be able to solve it well, so we're going to do it quickly. So let's go to this question, the one that I just did. What rate of interest gives rupees 8,820 when rupees 8,000 is invested for 2 years, compounded yearly? Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this question, because I don't want to write this whole thing again. I'm going to say that what, instead of rate, what time period gives rupees 8,820 when rupees 8,000 is invested for, and to make this a little bit different, for, let's make this 3 years, compounded yearly, and I'm going to change this and this to, actually no, time period I can ignore, and I can just make it what time period gives, and make this at say 6%. Okay, so I've got to fill in a few more blanks, and so there we go. Okay, so I'll make this 100,000 or 1 lakh, and 119,101.6. Okay, so let's read this. What time period gives rupees 119,101.6 when 100,000 or 1 lakh rupees is invested, compounded yearly at 6%? Okay, so let's find an empty page and start. Okay. The first step is that we know what the amount is. You know that it's going to be 19. Let me just make sure. 109,101.6. Okay. That's what I have. And again, remember when you have a decimal with money, always remember to put two decimals. So even if only one decimal is given, put an extra zero after it. Okay, so anyway, back to the question. I know the principal is 1 lakh. Okay. Know that time, I'm sorry, we don't know what time is. And rate, I know is 6%. Okay, so we know what we know, and we also know that time is what we have to find out. So, again, this is using that same basic formula. Let's start off. I know that A is equal to P, 1 plus R divided by 100 raised to the power of T. So start substituting. 119,101.6 is equal to 100,000 1 plus R, so 1 plus 6 by 100, and T we don't know, so I will just leave that up there. Okay, let's start. 119. Okay, so you may have noticed that there was a decimal point in the numerator, but I removed that by adding an extra zero to the denominator. So, just so that's clear, 106, 100 raised to the T. Okay, so at this point, well, I got lucky because I know that 100 cube, this would fit the denominator. So while using that, I realized that this is just 106 by 100 raised to the cube. So yeah, it looked really complicated, lots of big numbers. You'd expect to have to do a lot of division, but it turned out to be far, far simpler because I knew that this is 100 cube, and using that I realized that this number was 106 cube. So this is now equal to 106 by 100 raised to the T. So from here you can directly say that it's quite obvious that T is equal to 3. But make sure that you have this step. If you don't have this step, then they're not gonna give you any marks. So okay, hopefully you guys learned something here. So just a quick recap, these are the main questions that can come from compound interest. First, what is the amount? Second, what is the interest? Third, what is the amount or interest if you compound half yearly or quarterly or something like that? And then finally, find the rate if you have everything else, and find the time if you have everything else. So yeah, hopefully you learned a lot. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, just remember to ask. Thank you.